The morning sun barely peeked through the lush palm trees in the quiet neighborhood of Ocho Rios, Jamaica, when neighbors heard a chilling scream. Hours later, the news spread like wildfire. A woman who had spent her life caring for others was now lying lifeless in a pool of blood inside the home she thought would be her paradise. Who could have done this, and why? The answer lay in the arms of the man she loved, her much younger boyfriend, the one she trusted the most. Lorraine Bennett had spent over 40 years in the United States, working tirelessly as a nurse. She had arrived in New York in the 1980s, full of dreams, and built a life that many envied. Her career was marked by dedication and sacrifice, working long shifts in hospitals where she cared for countless patients. She became known for her kindness and skill, earning the respect of colleagues and the gratitude of those she helped. Over the years, she climbed the ranks, eventually becoming a senior nurse in a respected medical institution. She mentored younger nurses, ensuring that her experience and knowledge were passed down to the next generation. Despite her demanding job, Lorraine never lost sight of her personal goals. She bought a house in a quiet New Jersey suburb, ensuring her daughter had the stability she had always dreamed of. She saved diligently, always with Jamaica in the back of her mind. Her generosity extended beyond her immediate family. She regularly sent money back home, funding school fees for nieces and nephews, and even helping to rebuild a family member's home after a hurricane. But as she aged, the pull of her homeland grew stronger. She longed for the warmth of the Caribbean sun, the familiar patois of her people, and the peacefulness of a life away from the hustle of American hospitals. Retirement, she thought, would be her chance to finally slow down and enjoy the fruits of her labor. Jamaica was her heart, her soul, and her final destination. Retirement meant she could finally return to the island she had never truly left behind. She envisioned days filled with warm ocean breezes, laughter from old friends, and the comforting rhythm of reggae drifting through her newly built home. The smell of jerk chickens sizzling on a roadside grill, the sound of the waves crashing against the shore, the vibrant colors of the island's flora, all these things called to her. She longed for the familiar camaraderie of the local markets, where vendors greeted her with warm smiles and childhood friends still remembered her name. She missed the spirituality of Sunday morning church services, the way the congregation would sway to the rhythmic hymns, the feeling of community that no American city had ever quite replicated. Jamaica was more than just a place, it was a feeling, a deep-rooted sense of belonging. Despite the years she had spent away, she never truly left. She still cooked traditional dishes, still played old reggae records, still spoke in the dialect of her childhood when she was among her own. Now in retirement, she was ready to immerse herself fully in everything she had missed. But, above all, she looked forward to being with him, Darren. Darren Clark was a charming, smooth-talking man in his early 30s. He had grown up in the same community Lorraine once called home, but was 2 generations younger. His striking good looks, infectious laughter, and effortless confidence made him the kind of man who could make a woman forget the world. They met through mutual acquaintances on one of Lorraine's visits to Jamaica years earlier. Darren was kind to her, attentive in ways that rekindled something youthful inside her. He made her laugh, made her feel desired in a way she hadn't felt in years. The age gap of nearly 40 years didn't seem to bother him. Or at least that's what he made her believe. At first, their relationship was exhilarating. Darren was spontaneous, taking Lorraine on long drives along the coast, holding her hand as they watched the sunset from a secluded beach, and whispering sweet nothings in her ear as they danced under the stars at local reggae clubs. She felt young again, alive in ways she had almost forgotten. He had a way of making her feel like the most important person in the world. Every time she returned to the U.S., he would send her voice notes, telling her how much he missed her, how he couldn't wait for her to come back. When she was away, she sent him money to help out with bills and expenses, thinking she was building a future with him. Over time, she became deeply invested, financially and emotionally. She paid for his business ventures, bought him designer clothes, and even discussed marriage. Darren encouraged her dreams, telling her they would grow old together, that he would always be by her side. But beneath the surface, There were whispers in the community, whispers that Darren was not as devoted as he seemed, that he had other women, that he was using Lorraine as a stepping stone to a life of ease. Still, she refused to believe it. She had sacrificed so much for love, and she wasn't ready to let doubt creep in. She had chosen Darren, and she was determined to make it work, no matter the cost. It wasn't long before their flirtation turned into something deeper. Lorraine showered Darren with gifts, expensive colognes, the latest sneakers, even helping him start a small car rental business. And when she officially moved back to Jamaica, she made the ultimate gesture. She invited Darren to move in with her. Lorraine's friends and family in the US were skeptical. "You really think a young man like that loves you?" her best friend Janice had asked during a phone call. "Or does he love your money?" But Lorraine brushed off the concerns. She wasn't naive. She knew Darren was young and that their relationship wasn't exactly traditional. But she believed their connection was real. He was sweet, he was loving, and most importantly, he was there. Darren had a way of making her feel cherished, filling the loneliness that had lingered after years of hard work and personal sacrifices. He sent her affectionate messages throughout the day, constantly reminding her of how much he adored her. When they were together, he made her feel young again, as if the years between them had melted away. He was attentive, always eager to please. On her birthday, he organized a surprise dinner with her closest friends, presenting her with a delicate gold bracelet engraved with their initials. It was small gestures like these that kept Lorraine believing in their love. She felt a renewed sense of purpose, as though she had finally found the happiness she had longed for. Yet, Darren was unpredictable. At times he was distant, his attention slipping away like sand through her fingers. He would take long phone calls at odd hours, disappear for entire weekends without explanation, and become defensive when Lorraine questioned his whereabouts. Each time she confronted him, he would charm his way back into her good graces, convincing her that her fears were unfounded. She wanted to believe in him. Desperately. She had given too much to this relationship to let it slip away. And so, against her better judgment, she ignored the unease gnawing at her, blind to the storm that was slowly building around her. Still, there were red flags. Sometimes he would disappear for days without an explanation. There were rumors of other women, whispers of his growing interest in fast money and dangerous company. When she confronted him, he always had a way of turning it around, making her feel like she was overreacting. "Baby, you know I love you," he'd say, kissing her forehead. "People just jealous. Don't listen to them." So she didn't, and that decision cost her everything. On the night of her murder, Lorraine had spent the evening cooking Darren's favorite meal, oxtail and rice. She wanted to surprise him, to remind him that, despite their ups and downs, she was still his woman. He arrived late, after 10 p.m. Lorraine immediately sensed something was off. His usual warmth was absent. Instead, he seemed distracted, his eyes darting toward his phone every few minutes. His hands fidgeted, a nervous energy radiating from him that she had never seen before. She tried to reach out, placing a gentle hand on his, but he pulled away subtly, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. She asked if something was wrong, but he merely shrugged. "Nah, just some business," he said, his voice lacking its usual charm. She pressed further, reminding him that he could talk to her about anything, but he chuckled in that same evasive way, brushing off her concerns. His phone vibrated again. This time, he didn't just glance at it, he picked it up, turning his back to her as he responded quickly. Lorraine's stomach tightened. She knew this wasn't normal, but she told herself she was just being paranoid. Maybe he was just stressed. Maybe work had been hard. Maybe she was just overthinking. She tried to shake off the growing discomfort and returned to setting the dinner table, forcing herself to believe that whatever troubled Darren, it had nothing to do with her. Little did she know, the wheels of betrayal were already in motion. "Nah, just some business." She didn't press. She was used to Darren being secretive about his side hustles. What Lorraine didn't know was that Darren had been plotting with two of his associates, men who saw her not as a woman, but as a payday. They knew she had money, they knew she had sent large sums back home, and most importantly, they knew she trusted Darren. That night, he left the front door unlocked. On the night of her murder, Lorraine had spent the evening cooking Darren's favorite meal, oxtail and rice. She wanted to surprise him, to remind him that, despite their ups and downs, she was still his woman. He arrived late, after 10 p.m. Lorraine immediately sensed something was off. His usual warmth was absent. Instead, he seemed distracted, his eyes darting toward his phone every few minutes. His hands fidgeted, a nervous energy radiating from him that she had never seen before. She tried to reach out, placing a gentle hand on his, but he pulled away subtly, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. She asked if something was wrong, but he merely shrugged. "Nah, just some business," he said, his voice lacking its usual charm. She pressed further, reminding him that he could talk to her about anything, but he chuckled in that same evasive way, brushing off her concerns. His phone vibrated again. This time he didn't just glance at it. He picked it up, turning his back to her as he responded quickly. Lorraine's stomach tightened. She knew this wasn't normal, but she told herself she was just being paranoid. Maybe he was just stressed. Maybe work had been hard. Maybe she was just overthinking. She tried to shake off the growing discomfort and returned to setting the dinner table, forcing herself to believe that whatever troubled Darren, it had nothing to do with her. Little did she know, the wheels of betrayal were already in motion. "Nah, just some business." She didn't press. She was used to Darren being secretive about his side hustles. What Lorraine didn't know was that Darren had been plotting with two of his associates, men who saw her not as a woman, but as a payday. They knew she had money, they knew she had sent large sums back home, and most importantly, they knew she trusted Darren. That night, he left the front door unlocked. The killers ransacked the house, stole 2 of her cars, and fled. But their plan wasn't flawless. One of the vehicles was found abandoned just miles away. Surveillance footage placed Darren in the car earlier that night, and when questioned, his alibi crumbled. His associates turned on him, revealing the entire plot. It wasn't just about money. Darren had grown tired of Lorraine. He wanted a younger woman, a faster life. Killing her was easier than breaking her heart. The trial was swift. Darren and his accomplices were sentenced to life in prison, but no amount of justice could erase the horror of Lorraine's final betrayal. Lorraine's death became a cautionary tale for returning residents, a grim reminder of the dangers of misplaced trust. She had spent her life giving. Her love, her money, her heart. And in the end, it was that same generosity that cost her everything. Her story lingers, a haunting whisper in the warm Jamaican breeze, a warning to those who believe love is always enough. Because sometimes, love can kill. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Your support means so much to us, and we're grateful to have you as part of this community. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one.